I don't know if this is the kind of story people believe. It doesn't have police reports, viral videos, or a clean ending. But it's real. It happened to me. My name is Maddie. I was a sophomore in college when I went home for the weekend. My parents had taken a cruise to the Caribbean and left the house empty. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend, just me, the family dog, and a chance to finally get some rest from school. I wish I'd never come home. It started Friday night. I arrived around 7 p.m., threw my bag down in the hallway, and let Charlie, our golden retriever, out into the backyard. The house smelled stale, like no one had opened a window in weeks. Everything was as I remembered it. But it felt off. I tried to shake it off. Probably just my imagination, right? Big empty house, no one around, late evening. I microwaved leftovers, turned on a horror movie, and curled up on the couch. Charlie snuggled close, his ears twitching every now and then. About an hour in, I heard something upstairs. A soft creak, like a footstep on hardwood. I paused the movie. Listened. Silence. I laughed it off. Just the house settling. Maybe something fell over in my old room. I hadn't been home in months. Still, I felt nervous. I locked the front door. Checked the back door. Made sure the windows were closed. Then I went upstairs. Everything was in place. My old bed was made. Closet shut. Curtains drawn. I pushed open the bathroom door. Empty. No sign of anything weird. Just as I was about to go back downstairs, Charlie let out a low growl from below. He was at the base of the stairs, staring up at me. His eyes locked onto the dark hallway behind me. I turned around. Nothing. Just the dark corridor and 3 closed doors. Then he barked. Loud. Sharp. Angry. Charlie, stop. I called, walking down toward him. He didn't move. Just kept growling, ears back, teeth showing. I led him into the kitchen and gave him a treat to distract him. He calmed a little, but the hair on his back stayed raised. That night, I locked my bedroom door. Not something I usually did, but it made me feel better. I fell asleep with the TV on. At around 2:47 a.m., I woke up to the sound of whispering. I froze. It was faint. Just outside my door. Too soft to make out the words. But definitely a voice. My heart thudded in my chest. Charlie was at the foot of the bed. His ears perked, head up, staring at the door. Not barking this time, just alert. Watching. I leaned forward and pressed my ear to the wooden door. The voice was clearer now. A man's voice. Whispering something directly through the keyhole. Not just near the door. He was speaking into the keyhole. I backed away so fast I tripped over a laundry basket. Hit the floor hard. The whispering stopped. Then came a light knock. Tap. 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 Soft. Like fingernails. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call the cops. But my phone was downstairs on the couch. The tapping stopped. Silence. Charlie didn't move. After maybe 20 minutes, I worked up the nerve to approach the door again. I knelt beside it and peered through the keyhole. It was pitch black on the other side. No movement. Nothing. But as I leaned closer, I smelled something. Breath. Hot. Wet. Human. Someone was still there. Just standing on the other side. I backed away again and sat in the corner with Charlie until morning. At dawn, I opened the door. Nobody in the hallway. All doors still shut. But on the floor in front of my room was a single strand of hair. Long black. Not mine. I checked every inch of the house. Every closet. The attic. Even the crawl space. Nothing. No forced entry. No broken locks. Nothing missing. But here's the part that really messed me up. Later that day, I remembered something my mom had mentioned before she left. She said they'd had the locks changed because the old spare key had gone missing. They assumed it got lost. I never thought to ask when. She told me it disappeared around Christmas. The same time a neighbor reported seeing a strange man walking around behind our house at night. They thought it was a raccoon. I left that night. Took Charlie. Never went back alone again. I still don't know who it was. Or how long they'd been watching the house. Maybe, even living inside it. Some people think home is the safest place in the world. I used to be one of them. Not anymore. This story didn't happen to me directly. It happened to a man I knew named Eric, quiet guy, mid-30s, divorced, raising his daughter alone after his ex moved out of state. He rented the bottom half of a duplex in a quiet Pennsylvania neighborhood. There's nothing unusual about a dad trying to start over. But there was something wrong with that house. Something that watched, and whispered, and waited. Eric moved in midwinter. Snow covered the sidewalks. The heat in the duplex barely worked, but he didn't complain. He was just glad to be starting fresh. His daughter, Lila, was 5. She was sweet, imaginative, and constantly talking. But within a week of moving in, Eric noticed she'd started talking to someone who wasn't there. At first, he chalked it up to the usual imaginary friend thing. Most kids had one. But it wasn't the friend that worried him. It was the conversations. She wasn't just talking to herself. She was answering questions. Like someone was actually speaking to her. One night, while Eric was in the kitchen, he heard her down the hall whispering, "No, Daddy can't see you. He's busy. Don't get mad." He rounded the corner and found her sitting in the hallway, staring into the open basement door. There was no light on. Just blackness at the bottom of the wooden stairs. He asked who she was talking to. Lila said, "The boy who lives under the stairs. He doesn't like the dark." Eric slammed the basement door and locked it. That night, he lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Something about that basement never felt right. Cold draft. Musty smell. A weird buzz in the air, like pressure in his ears. He had barely fallen asleep when he was jolted awake by a loud thud beneath the floor. From the basement. Another thud followed. Then a dragging sound, like someone pulling something heavy across concrete. Eric grabbed a flashlight and went to check it out. He opened the basement door slowly. The air hit him immediately, freezing, like stepping into a meat locker. He aimed his flashlight down the steps. Nothing. Just the unfinished concrete floor and old wooden shelves. Still, he went down, heart pounding with each creak of the steps. At the bottom, he swept the flashlight across the room. And that's when he saw it. A tiny, hand-drawn face carved into the concrete wall. Just about Lila's height. 2 hollow eyes. A jagged mouth. The word friend scratched beneath it. It hadn't been there before. He was sure of it. He ran back upstairs, locked the door, and pushed a chair in front of it. The next morning, Eric questioned Lila gently. She insisted she hadn't drawn anything. She said the boy showed it to her. Then she said something that made his blood run cold. He said he used to have a daddy too. But he went into the dark and never came back. Eric tried to dismiss it. Maybe she overheard something. Maybe she was playing too much with her tablet. But that same afternoon, while folding laundry, he found something tucked between her clothes. A photograph. Old. Black and white. Faded with time. It showed a boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, standing in what looked like the same basement. The same wall. The same shelves. Except behind him, in the shadows, was a figure. Not a person. Not exactly. Tall. Gaunt. No face. Just watching. He demanded to know where Lila got the photo. She swore she found it in the basement, on the floor. Eric packed a bag and took her to stay at his mother's house for the weekend. But he couldn't stop thinking about it. He needed to know more. He looked up the property. Found an address history. Nothing stood out until he stumbled on an archived newspaper article from 1996. A child named Stephen Walker had gone missing in that very duplex. No forced entry. No signs of struggle. Just gone. Disappeared from his room during the night. The article said the boy's father had been questioned, but he later died by suicide in the basement. Eric's blood froze. He went back to the basement with the flashlight, and this time, he brought a hammer. He returned to the spot on the wall where the face had been drawn. Something about the wall seemed hollow. He tapped it. Then hit it. Thud. Not solid. He pried the drywall apart. Behind it, stuffed between old insulation and rotting beams, was a box. Inside, a pair of tiny shoes. A broken toy truck. And a torn piece of flannel that looked like a child's shirt, stained dark with something brown and dry. Eric left that night. He didn't wait for answers. He told the landlord he was breaking the lease. Changed numbers. Never looked back. He said nothing to Lila, except that they were moving again. She didn't protest. But the day they left, as they got in the car, she looked back at the house and said, "He's mad now. You shouldn't have found his box." Eric didn't respond. He turned the key, started the car, and didn't stop until they were 3 towns away. He told me that story over beers one night. He never drank much, but that night, he did. He said, "Sometimes, I still hear tapping under the floorboards at night. But only when Lila's asleep. There's something different about being alone in nature. People think it's peaceful, calming. But when you're truly isolated, no cell service, no neighbors, no roads nearby, it turns primal. Every snap of a twig sounds louder. Every gust of wind feels colder. Every knock is a little more terrifying." This story happened to a guy named Jordan, a photographer who rented a remote cabin up in northern Idaho for a solo winter retreat. He wanted silence. He got it. And then something tried to break it. The cabin was a small A-frame nestled in the woods, an old rental listed online. No Wi-Fi. No electricity. Just a wood stove, lanterns, and a generator that only worked if you cranked it manually. The place hadn't been updated in years. But that's what Jordan wanted: rustic, untouched, quiet. The first 2 nights were peaceful. He explored the trails, snapped snow-covered shots of the frozen river, read books by firelight. But on the 3rd night, the storm rolled in. Thick snow started falling fast. The wind howled. By 8 p.m., the generator sputtered out, and the backup batteries were already low. Jordan lit a lantern, sat on the couch, and wrote in his travel journal. Outside, snow coated the windows. The wind made the trees groan. Then, around 10:17 p.m., he heard a knock. 3 soft taps on the front door. He sat up. He hadn't seen anyone for miles. The nearest town was over 40 minutes away by road, and even that was buried now under at least a foot of fresh snow. He waited. Maybe it was the wind. A branch. Something. Another knock. Louder this time. He stood, grabbed the lantern, and walked to the front door. The porch light was out. The window next to the door was fogged up. He looked through the peephole. Nothing. Just falling snow and trees swaying. Still, he opened the door cautiously. Lantern held high. There were no footprints. No one. Nothing but untouched snow across the porch and stairs. He stepped outside, shining the light around. Silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. He stepped back in and locked the door. 10 minutes later, knock knock knock, this time from the back door. He froze. There was no deck back there. Just a steep slope covered in ice. He crept through the cabin and peered through the back window. Again, no one. No tracks. No movement. He didn't sleep that night. The next day, the storm worsened. Winds pushed drifts of snow against the cabin, nearly covering the front door. The generator was dead. His phone had 1 bar, no data, no signal. He stayed bundled inside, trying not to panic. Just 24 more hours, he thought. He'd wait for the snowplows to clear the road and drive out in the morning. That night, around 1 a.m., the knocking returned. But this time, it wasn't just on the front or back door. It came from all sides. Soft, rhythmic knocking on the windows, the walls, the wooden beams above the loft. No footsteps, No voices. Just knock after knock after knock. He sat in the middle of the living room with a fire poker in his hands, heart racing. Then, something scratched across the window. Not claws. Not nails. A fingertip. It dragged slowly, from one edge to the other. Then a knock, 2 short, deliberate taps. Jordan didn't move. Didn't breathe. It was impossible. Even if someone was messing with him, there would be prints in the snow. There was none. He checked. Again and again. But the knocking didn't stop. It kept going. Soft taps. Pauses. Then another knock from a new wall. As if someone was circling the cabin. Over and over. Jordan did the only thing he could. He built the fire high, blocked the windows with furniture, and waited for daylight. He kept whispering to himself, "It's just the wind. It's just the wind." At dawn, the knocking finally stopped. The snow had stopped falling. The sun barely broke through the clouds, casting pale grey light. Jordan opened the door to escape. And froze. There, carved into the snow directly in front of the door, were handprints. Dozens of them. Pressed into the snow like someone or something had crawled in circles around the cabin all night. Each handprint had only 4 fingers. Long. Thin. Clawless. Human, but wrong. No footprints. Just the hands. Dragging. Jordan left everything behind: gear, clothes, even his car. He hiked out in snow up to his knees until he flagged down a trucker on the main road 2 miles away. The cabin owner tried to contact him for days afterward. He didn't answer. He never went back. I asked Jordan once what he thought it was. He didn't answer at first. Just stared ahead and said, "You know how people knock on doors to ask if they can come in? What if something out there was just learning how? The stories you just heard might seem disconnected. Different people. Different places. A college student. A single father. A photographer. But they all share something deeper, something more chilling than just ghosts or shadows. It's the lie we tell ourselves when we're alone: if anything was wrong, I'd know. That lie is comforting. It helps us sleep. Helps us ignore the sound in the attic. Helps us walk past the dark window without flinching. Helps us believe the knock at the door is always explainable. But here's the truth: we don't know who else is out there. Or what. Maddie thought she was alone for the weekend. She wasn't. Someone or something had a key. Had time. Had patience. And it knew where she slept. It whispered through the keyhole because it wanted her to listen. It didn't care if she believed in it. It just wanted to be known. Eric thought his daughter was being imaginative. But children see things adults have trained themselves to ignore. Things hiding in dark corners. Beneath stairs. Behind walls. He thought he was the parent in control, keeping his child safe. But the boy in the basement had lived there longer. And he wasn't playing pretend. Jordan went into the woods for silence. What he got was something that watched him. Knocked gently, like it was rehearsing. No footsteps. No sounds. Just a rhythm. A pattern. A presence. It wasn't trying to scare him. Not really. It was trying to be invited. What all 3 of them realized, too late, was that being alone doesn't mean you're safe. In fact, being alone is exactly when you're most vulnerable. No backup. No witnesses. No one to tell you that noise wasn't just the house settling. That shadow in the mirror did move. That the door really did unlock itself. And the scariest part? Most people will never believe you. You'll be left with your memory of it, half fading, half festering. And that silence that follows? That's not peace. That's something waiting for you to be alone again. So tonight, when you go to sleep, lock the doors. Check the basement. Close the curtains. But don't just listen for sounds. Listen for the silence between them. Because whatever is out there, whatever is learning, it knows we're always looking for a reason to feel safe. Even when we shouldn't.